podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Yeah, we've done this once before, and it was when Wayne Rooney did a U-turn the day after we recorded a lengthy podcast about United's future without Wayne Rooney in 2011.
Always said Rooney was a nice chap.
Then we did an emergency thing that was only released on our Twitter feeds when we signed Robin van Persie. And I remember recording something about David Moyes pretty quickly after it had happened, but I think that was scheduled. It's a glorious day for our people, Ed.
Yeah, I interrupted your intro to the pod there, but, you know.
That's fine. Who cares? So, if you haven't listened to the show that we recorded yesterday and you're here for some Liverpool analysis, you can listen to that if you want. That will be in your feeds too.
Now completely out of date.
Yeah, because a lot of it was about how United are not going to sack Jose Mourinho.
It was. I posted that this morning at about, 8:30, and by 9:30 he was gone.
Well, how long's the podcast? That's all I'm saying. Hi, Ed. You all right? Not you, Ed. That Ed.
Yeah, I'm not sure that spineless actually listens to our show, but if he does, well done.
I was about to say sorry for all the things we've called you, but then I realised I'm not.
So are you dancing on Mourinho's grave?
Yeah.
That's what this podcast is all about. I wish I'd brought some maracas, you know? It'd be Bez. Yes.
Honestly, couldn't have happened to a nicer fella, could it?
Oh, God. What a cloud has been lifted. I mean, everyone was warned. We warned.
We
warned.
Especially.
Everyone warned. Bobby Charlton warned. We'd seen it at Real Madrid. We'd seen it at Chelsea. This guy engages in scorched earth, and it all comes crashing down. And at United, with players, some of whom have got big egos, some of whom haven't got big enough egos, some of whom who aren't quite good enough, he wasn't able to pull that together into anything that resembled a coherent team. Who's been at the club 2.5 years, hasn't managed to build a team with any kind of identity at all in that time. And he fully deserves the sack. I have to say, I'm surprised. I didn't think that Woodward would have the guts to do it. I didn't think he would release the money, and especially it came out yesterday. It's going to cost United £24 million to sack Mourinho. It would cost them £18 million to sack them after failing to qualify for the Champions League. So I thought, God, we're going to be stuck with Mourinho for another season. But he's pulled the trigger.
And I think, you know, given how much we hammer him, in fact, I think I said on the show yesterday, the worst thing he's doing at the moment is not sacking Mourinho. He does actually deserve some credit, you know, just in terms of the action, not the person or the structure or whatever, but there's no doubt this is the right thing to do. You could argue it's a few weeks too late, but I'm not sure that makes the most telling difference. And my question for you, Ed, which is something I've been thinking about for the last hour, because it's only been, 90 minutes, let's say, is why is now the time they did it?
Well, I don't know, actually. I mean, maybe they've made a calculation that 11 points behind the Champions League places and the cost in terms of the contractual fallout with Adidas and others that are tied to being in the Champions League and other sponsorship contracts is way higher than the 24 million they're paying Mourinho. So maybe it's out of desperation, much like a club in the relegation zone desperate to make a change just because a change is desperately needed. Maybe it's that. Maybe Wood was looking down and not up because we're closer to the relegation places than we are to the top of the league at the moment.
Funnily enough, I'm writing something at the moment about United's relegation season. The thing about that argument, which I've been thinking about today, is just that it's extremely unlikely we're going to qualify for the Champions League this season either way, because we've got a substantial points gap to make up against, and it's not like, you know, when you're in the relegation zone, you can be pretty sure that the teams above you are going to lose games because they're the ones that are scrapping just above the relegation zone. So if you turn your form around in December and you're in the relegation zone, you've got a very good chance of closing gaps on teams above you. But realistically, have we not already dropped too many points this season to make a realistic charge for the fourth place spot?
Probably, yeah. I mean, 11 points is an awful lot to catch up halfway into the season. Awful lot. We'd have to have a massive turnaround, and normally you don't get that. I mean, of course, there were times that Fergie drove United towards the title, being famously against Newcastle. I think United were 10 or 12 points behind at that stage. But when you're a team in poor form, it doesn't normally switch around. We'll see. I mean, maybe there will be such a weight lifted now. Maybe it'll happen. We'll see whether the players have some pride, because they also, as much as I'm dancing on Mourinho's grave, and I'm, of the general opinion that Mourinho's brought all of it on himself, including some of the poor performances from the players. They have to take some responsibility. Now, Mourinho gone, if they continue to perform poorly and United's results and style and performances are also poor, then that will tell us something about the players as well. So, will Pogba be freed up? Will some of the others who seem inhibited be freed up as well and start putting in some great performances, and maybe United can give it a shot? It seems a long shot, I think form is often deeply grained in when teams start the season so badly, and this is United's worst start since 1990. But maybe not. A cloud has been lifted.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be fascinating to see what comes next in terms of the impact of that cloud being lifted, and we'll talk a lot about what comes next in the second half of the show. I guess we have to talk about where it's all gone wrong for Mourinho, and I think the key inflection point, in my opinion, was the second summer of his tenure. I heard this from, I can't remember where, this was not original thought of my own. I heard it somewhere and I can't remember where, but it resonated and I thought, yeah, that is really good analysis. Because in his first summer in charge, got some big name players in, got to play, we actually played some pretty good stuff at periods in that first season. And there was a definite lift, and of course it ended in Stockholm. But that second summer, the signing of Nemanja Matic, maybe even the signing of Lukaku, even though we were 4-0 FC for the first 10 games of the season, it sowed the seeds, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, who did he bring in the second summer? He brought in Lindelof.
Yeah.
And
Lukaku and Matic.
And Matic.
And he didn't bring in Perisic.
Yeah, and of course that was one he wanted. I'm not sure that would have made a transformational difference in United's side. I mean, Perisic is a good player, but he's quite a one-dimensional player. Would that have transformed everything? Maybe it has transformed Mourinho's outlook. I mean, maybe that's the pivot. Of course, the thing that made him go off the edge and start enacting scorched earth, which is what he does everywhere, to be honest. But, when he really sort of cranked that up was in this summer, just gone, his third summer, when he was obviously told he wasn't going to be given the £75 million that Spurs were demanding for Toby Alderweireld. And he was negative from the beginning. I mean, I remember talking about it. I remember talking about how Mourinho had created a cloud over the squad in the summer with the players in the United States, and it transformed onto the pitch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He decided, he behaved like a petulant child who hadn't got what he wanted. I mean, for all the absolute vitriol that Mourinho has managed to crank up about Paul Pogba, and I'm watching my United feed now, and there's an awful lot of people who've bought into this narrative that Pogba is the virus and he's caused all the problems, much as Mourinho managed to do with Iker Casillas at Real Madrid and Eden Hazard at Chelsea. It was Mourinho who created that negativity. It wasn't Pogba. It wasn't any of the other players. I mean, they might not be performing, but week in, week out, he picked on players He called them out. He behaved like the child when he didn't get the players he wanted. And instead of being a manager who tried to work with what he's got and get the best out of them, he has created a side that is far less than the sum of its parts. I mean, we talked in the pod that we've just released today about there not being a order of magnitude difference between the quality of players Liverpool have and United have. I mean, after all, we finished above them last season, and who do they add? A couple of midfielders this summer? You know, there isn't. The difference is the manager. You know, Mourinho's rightly got the boot because he has destroyed the confidence of so many players. And the thing I can almost not forgive, apart from all the drama that we knew was going to come with Mourinho, 2.5 years, and I have no idea how this team plays.
No. And these are the most damning things. So the stuff which is around taste, you know, what kind of football do you like? What kind of manager's personality do you like? You know, do you like Mourinho's abrasiveness? Do you think that the even falling out with the players is kind of worth it because of what he brings? You know, none of that. Never mind any of that. And do you care about the style of football? Never mind any of that. We have Mourinho's teams. His good teams have always had an incredibly solid identity, incredibly solid. And actually, I did think when he came along, that we really needed some of that. You know, we really needed some of the kind of players who would run through walls for a manager. Some of that kind of fight had gone out of us under Van Gaal. It was all very flat. And I thought a bit of that fire would actually be really helpful. And I do think it kind of was for one season, although we did finish 6th, of course. But I do think, as we've talked about before, if we're going to preach underlying numbers to criticise him, we should probably look at the underlying numbers there and say they do him a bit more justice. But
right,
now,
yeah, but I mean, look, I buy the United needs some mad dogs. I mean, the greatest Fergie side had Keane in the middle of the pitch, you know, and then Butt and Ince before that, and Robson, who's more than just a grafter, but as all of those players were. And absolutely needed some of that. But what Mourinho had in this squad was talent. Pogba, Martial, Lukaku, Rashford, Lingard, bags and bags and bags of creative talent. And he sucked the creativity out of them all. I mean, at Liverpool, at the weekend, it was unforgivable. I didn't want to talk about Liverpool because we just did an hour on Liverpool. But it was just so desperately negative. And the thing is, with Mourinho, if you swap the managers round and Klopp was United manager and Mourinho was Liverpool manager, the pattern of the play would have been completely the other way round, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And we're not going to have that anymore. I hope so. Unless Carrick has been learning from Mourinho these last 6 months.
And I was just the kind of point that I was making really was only that that I thought we needed some of that fire around the club in general. I'm not saying I buy into the Mourinho idea that we need more mad dogs and that's the problem. I'm saying there was something at the time where I don't think it was the worst appointment in a lot of ways. But what's happened, regardless of what you like or don't like about football, is just that it's rubbish now. That's just absolutely rubbish, and that he's playing Scott McTominay in a back three against West Ham, and he's playing a back three against Liverpool, a back five against Liverpool, giving up on it at half-time and bringing Fellaini. You know, it was pathetic. We talked like, oh, that was pathetic, but here are some other key mistakes that I think have happened over the years. I think the dropping of Pogba around the Sevilla game and the way that was handled, and just the way he's handled Pogba thoroughly. I know perfectly reasonable people who think that Pogba's behaved not great too, and that's fine, sure. But the way Mourinho's handled Pogba's been an absolute disgrace from not quite start to finish, but certainly from last season through. Just very public, always so public, always so targeted
deliberately.
And yeah,
Deliberately. This wasn't by accident. This
Exactly.
is deliberate. Mourinho created a narrative. This was a smokescreen to hide the fact that he was failing. He picked on Pogba. And that is a completely separate thing from whether we got out of Pogba everything we want, because he's not the Pogba that played for France in the World Cup for most of the time. Often he is, and people pick on him anyway, because Mourinho's created a narrative around Pogba that he is the he is the virus. He is the one that's causing all United's problems. And I see it now. Twitter feed is full of people absolutely triggered. Gammons, a lot of them, as you said. Triggered by the fact that Pogba has posted a somewhat cheeky Instagram post and pulled it off, which he shouldn't have done. So this is a fresh start for everyone. And I for one can't wait. This is day zero, as Jeff Bezos likes to say. We can start again, but and I think we should talk about this a little bit. Where United go from here, because another manager in Mourinho's place will only solve one problem. And the club has definitely got more than one problem.
Yeah, and let's go through some of the other things that have got Mourinho the sack, and then move on to that. I think that another key inflection point in his United career was the arrival of Alexis Sanchez in January of
what
this
a
year.
Disaster of a signing that was.
Yeah, and the good things that were happening at the beginning of last season, where we had, you in particular were very critical of Mourinho for turning Martial and Rashford into a job share. But actually, it was a great job share, as you would expect with two players who should definitely be in the first team. They were remarkably effective, and if the right one don't get you, the left one will. We were, it was super fun to watch them. There was the Viva Ronaldo chant was repurposed for Martial and Rashford. Martial and Rashford running down the wing, all that. That was brilliant. And then when Sanchez came, he just killed all of that momentum. And Martial's form only recovered thanks to Jose Mourinho's brilliant management, apparently, according to him, this year. But yeah, that was disastrous, and I think in a lot of ways that's one of the things that's done for Mourinho, because there was some sort of hope bubbling before that happened, and of course it was after that Sevilla happened, and Sevilla was definitely a turning point for me in my hope of whether this is going to be something that works out or not.
Yeah, and look, there is hope that things will work out post Mourinho.
I mean, under Mourinho. That was a turning point for me.
Yeah. I'm not sure I ever had any real hope about Mourinho, because, I guess we always knew what we would get. The best that it could be is winning some trophies. And he did manage to win some trophies. I mean, cup trophies, playing a certain kind of football. I mean, I went all the way out to Sweden with a whole bunch of United fans, and we played long ball football in that cup final. It was miserable, apart from the win. That's Mourinho. That's Mourinho, and maybe Woodward is wiser than we thought. I mean, I don't think he's that wise, but maybe he's worked out that United are no nearer to getting to any trophies.
I mean, you, I have to say, were much more. I was much more. You've been proved correct by the passage of time, basically. The whole of the first season, I was arguing that there'd been quite a lot of progress, and you were arguing that there'd been very little progress, and it turned out that you were right. So, there we go. That's another one. I've always got Paul Le Guen in my back pocket, Ed, if I need it. Situations.
Yeah. No, I'm claiming no credit for judgment on managers. Yeah. I mean, Sanchez, I guess I interrupted and didn't really finish the thought there. But, I mean, it's been an absolute disaster of a signing. I wonder whether he'll be unlocked now. I mean, because it's not like he was a bad player at Arsenal. He was a very good player. One who's never, ever, ever found his feet at United. And maybe he never will. And maybe United will just have to take that financial hit. But maybe in a team that plays some, flowing, attacking football, if we can get there, whether it's under Carrick or whoever comes in next as a permanent manager, maybe he'll find his feet, because then United have got a big asset. Now, I didn't mention him when I listed the attacking players that we have at the club, did I? I almost forgot he existed. But so many great attacking players, and some who are just a touch off elite level. I think Lukaku's a touch off elite level. Lingard's a touch off elite level. But Rashford and Martial definitely have the talent to get there. Sanchez has been there. Mata has been there at times in his career. These are players that could and should give more. And I really hope that I'm proven right that a new manager will unlock all of that, and not the Twitterati who think it's all the players' fault. Let's really hope so.
So, I think if you want a catalogue of all the things that we think about that we haven't mentioned about why we think Mourinho's gone wrong over the years, I think pretty much everyone's heard us report on this week by week, especially over the last 18 months as things have got worse and worse and worse. So it's time to talk about the future. And what we know is, first of all, Gary Neville's had a pop at Paul Pogba, and that will give plenty of credence to the people that believe that that Gary Neville knows all and contains the spirit of the club, and that he's infallible, and that doesn't ignore people when they come to him saying there's a problem and why am I being treated like this, and then 2 years later call it out publicly so he looks good when actually he looks terrible. Anyway, that's a slight side note. Mourinho is going to be replaced by Michael Carrick, but only for 48 hours or so. Then United are going to bring in an external manager till the end of the season, and then appoint a full-time manager in the summer. So that's quite labyrinthine, and it kind of, in a way, it's like, oh, well, they're really putting some work in. It's really kind of costing them more than money to sack Mourinho. They're going to have to do a lot of thinking.
So who have they got lined up? Well,
you've got to assume that Pochettino's in the mix. I mean, as Mohammed Butt of Squawker, I was talking to him just before we started recording, and he said the fact that they're doing it this way means that you can effectively rule out as long-term manager Laurent Blanc, Zinedine Zidane, and Antonio Conte, because they're the sort of probably the highest profile managers who are available right now. Because if the plan was to give any of them the job, you'd just give them the job now. And I'm talking about long-term future. And given what we know about Woodward's taste for Pochettino, you'd think that they'll be moving heaven and earth to get him in.
And they should.
Yeah.
And they should. And it shouldn't. And Pochettino is a manager who's used to working under a different type of structure. And I really desperately hope, given that Woodward has picked 3 managers and got 3 failures now, that something is learnt here, and that United do some restructuring, and this director of football, which Woodward thinks he is, does actually come in. And Pochettino is well used to working in that environment. That would be the right one, but they've got to give him the platform.
So what I wonder is, who on earth is going to be the person that comes in? Because we've got 6 months probably. Well, yeah, 5 months at least to talk about who the actual manager's going to be next year. Who on earth is going to be the person that they bring in?
Well, let's think of some managers out of contract at the moment who are not those high profile ones. So, who did you roll out? Conte, Zidane, and Blanc. Yeah. Arsene Wenger's available.
Yeah, I think that has actually been officially ruled out somewhere. I saw it on the BBC News that he was listed as one of the people that it's not going to be, along with the Neville brothers and Paul Scholes.
Leonardo Jardim, sacked at Monaco after some pretty awful results. Although,
yeah, I mean that's.
They didn't have any players fit.
Yeah, I don't think that's why he was sacked, really, was it? Jardim would be a reasonable voice in the conversation.
Does he speak any English?
To know, maybe that's why they haven't given him the job yet. He's going to spend 5 months in doing Duolingo.
Yeah, no, I don't know whether he's the right man for the long. Has he ever had a really big job?
I mean, has Pochettino?
No, but he's one on the up, isn't he? I
mean, isn't Jardim? Jardim did one of the most incredible. I mean, Jardim
he's a younger. He is, true. He is young. I mean, he's had an absolute stinker at Monaco.
Has he? Well, I mean, this seems like a very weird analysis of Jardim's Monaco career, that he's had an absolute stinker. He had player after player after player sold out from under him and not replaced, and wasn't able to sustain the massive overperformance.
True. All right. I'll correct myself. He's had a stinker in the last 6 months at Monaco.
Yeah, but of the kind that would be kind of hard to blame him for as well. You said something earlier. You said Woodward's appointed 3 failures as United manager, which I think is inarguably true. But, Van Gaal won the FA Cup. Mourinho won the Europa League and the League Cup. Really, what we've seen is a complete failure to compete in the league. Oh, and then Mourinho came second last year, although you can't really call that competing in the league.
There was never a competition there, No, 5 seasons since Ferguson retired. Nowhere close to the title in those 5 seasons. £700 million spent in the transfer market. I think for United, the size of United and the ambitions, that is failure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way they appointed any of those managers thinking that, good run at the top 4 and a couple of cup competitions here and there.
Yeah, and then, by the way, I gave it the big talk about United's underlying numbers in the first season, but actually they scored 3 goals fewer than their XG across the whole course of the season, and ended up with less than 2 expected points fewer than they should have got. So it's probably anyway.
But we do need a big appointment, and they need to let it be known that this is coming, because we have some really big players.
Yeah.
Especially David De Gea out of contract. That is a £75 million purchase. I mean, given how much Kepa cost Chelsea, United need to replace him.
And he's just unreplaceable anyway, because that's how much Kepa cost Chelsea and Alisson cost practically that much, but neither of them are David De Gea. You're taking a quality drop and spending £75 million. So Martial's contract was extended. I mean, the extension was triggered to 2020. De Gea's in contract till 2020. This is going to be. If you were De Gea, you might not even take a punt on the next manager anyway, because you might say, listen, I've done this twice now. I'm not prepared to do it again, in the hope that it works out this time. So I think that's a conversation that's still ongoing. Don't think this guarantees him staying by any stretch.
Players out of contract this summer. Young, Valencia, who I guess would both happily lose. Mata, Darmian, one of which would happily lose. De Gea, but they'll trigger the 1-year extension. Herrera, they'll trigger the 1-year extension. Phil Jones, new 5-year contract coming up.
Maybe not now. Maybe not. Although Chris Smalling, I don't think that was related to Jose Mourinho. We would just try to talk about who it could possibly be that's going to come in. One of the things that seems possible is, given it's only between now and the end of the season, it could be an international manager. Could be someone who's managing a national team right now.
Give it to Giggsy.
Well, yes, I'm not saying we should, but I'm saying it is absolutely possible that we will. He's obviously known to the hierarchy at United. He's done the job before on an interim basis. This is not me saying I think it should be him. I'm saying this is why I don't think it's ridiculous that the Wales job is not going to occupy all that much of his time between now and the summer. Give it to Gareth Southgate. I think that's somewhat unlikely. I think he might be like, no, I don't really want to be United caretaker manager, thanks.
Yeah. And so why do you think Carrick is not being given the job for a few months?
I mean, perhaps he said he doesn't want it. Perhaps
might be sensible, yeah. Job too big, too soon.
And perhaps they don't want to give a learner driver the keys to a Formula One car, or whatever the Fergie quote is. But
Mourinho is a milk van driver given the keys to a Formula One car.
Listen, Jose Mourinho is, as you have pointed out yourself on several occasions, a multiple-time Champions League winner and, one of the most successful football managers in history.
Yeah, I believe the quote was about Gianluca Vialli taking over at Chelsea all those years ago.
Ah, yes. He did an all right job, didn't he, actually?
Did an all right job. And there have been plenty of examples of first-time managers doing well. I mean, Pep Guardiola at Barcelona, although that was special circumstances. I'm not sure he can take all the credit, although he's obviously a manager highly talented at working with elite players.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
Unlike Jose Mourinho.
He can't take all the credit as if, obviously he can't take all the credit, but it's not like he's done badly since he left there, is it? Maybe we get him until the end. Give him a chance to manage the good team in Manchester for 6 months.
Exactly. He can actually show something. Prove all the doubters wrong. Bring Dr. Fuentes along with him.
I guess it would be a surprise if it was Ryan Giggs, but that wouldn't be maybe that much of a surprise. I think that would. I think almost whoever it is, their job is just to keep the squad motivated and upbeat. But if you're going to do this thing of giving it to someone who isn't in the running for the job long term, then there's two options. I think one is an international manager who wouldn't want to leave their current job, and the other is a much older manager who isn't really looking for a long-term role but might step in to kind of just, have one last hurrah. So like a really, really successful older person who might, say have retired a few years ago and just be looking for something to do with their time, who maybe they're bored of horse races and fine wine, and their health's
I don't think Wenger's into horses. Yeah, so David McConnell? David McConnell at the Mirror and the Daily Mail both calling Blanc at the moment. I'm not sure I'd be that excited about that, given he's got, a bit of a problem with racism and he's pretty pragmatic as a manager as well. Not exactly one to set the pulses racing. I could just about cope if it was for 6 months. Maybe. Just about. Anyway, we're not going to dance on the grave of the next manager just yet until he comes in. And we'll give him half a game. If it
is Laurent Blanc, never mind about the style of football, never mind about the football at all. I just think, the myopia of appointing Laurent Blanc, the classic, let's have a real dialogue about racism in football, and especially, absolutely furiously angry for a second.
It hasn't happened yet, so let's not howl at the wind. And
especially when what we're talking about is how the subtle and insipid underlying prejudice at the heart of racism and the way black players and black people are categorised and talked about, for Man United then to give the job to a person who talked about black players in the way that Laurent Blanc did. I mean, I guess we'll see when it happens, but yeah, that would be hard to take. Yeah, it's gonna be like a thing that most people are like, oh yeah, that wasn't very good, really. But he apologised and But
well, let's see. Not guaranteed. Maybe United will have greater vision than that. Not saying it's likely, but maybe. Yeah. Anyway, well, that's it. He's gone. He's done. He's finished. I have to say, I was feeling massively negative when we recorded this podcast yesterday. And I'm feeling somewhat better right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So don't on that by, bringing your Laurent Blanc negativity.
Listen, it's difficult to have nice things, isn't it? So we'll enjoy the 48 hours in which Michael Carrick is Manchester United. And that's quite a nice thought, I think. Right now, Michael Carrick is the Man United manager.
Yeah, until Ed Woodward appoints himself.
Yeah. So Carrick now. Let's hope it's not Blanc for the rest of the season, but I guess it will be. Or I guess that seems very likely anyway if the journalists are going big. Although, I did feel sorry for old Jamie Jackson, friend of the show, of course. He's been on our podcast.
Got totally owned by the briefing department last night, didn't he?
Yeah, it's just horrible. Because it was his byline that it all went out on. The kind of business as usual for now. No plans to sack Mourinho. And just think, oh God, someone's told him that yesterday. Someone that he at least believes enough to run the story. And then they've absolutely done a number on him the next day.
Unusual because, I kind of was hoping, to be honest, maybe this is the vindictive streak, but I didn't want Jose Mourinho to just be sacked. I kind of wanted him to be humiliated, like his team have been humiliating the fans for 2.5 years.
Maybe not 2.5 years, maybe a year and a half. Because I think in that first year, we won 2 trophies, and there were times when we played some pretty fun
What
football.
I wanted was him to be told that if he wanted to keep his job, he had to take the microphone in hand in United's next home game and apologise to the fans, and then Woodward to run out onto the pitch and say, "You're fired. Get out of here."
Vince McMahon style. I don't know where we go from here. It's going to be...
It's a long road back to the top. It really is. And he's going to have to take not just a new manager, because that definitely is, sticking plaster on an axe wound. It is going to need, it needs structural change. I mean, every other top club in Europe has a different structure than United's. Yeah. We believe that the fiefdom would work. Moyes, Van Gaal, Mourinho all have their faults, but they all have their faults when the structure didn't support them.
And I think I've been saying for a while, what United are going to need more than anything else to get back to the top, assuming that the people running things at the very highest level don't suddenly have an epiphany and a road to Damascus kind of realization about everything that they've done and are doing wrong, is to get really lucky and appoint a manager who can actually be a sort of 2018 Fergie surrogate, really. And I think that's a very, very tall order, because there's not very many of them in the world.
No. We don't need a Fergie clone. We need to modernise as a club. Yeah. But anyway, trends in my current Twitter timeline: Mourinho, 406,000 tweets. Jose, 412,000 tweets. Pogba, 77,000 tweets. Carrick, 22,000. Poch, only 12. Wenger, 12. Jesus. Zidane, 24. And Mark Hughes, 1,272 tweets.
Can you imagine how funny it would be if Arsene Wenger became Man United's caretaker manager till the end of the season? That would be... just would be the most beautiful, hilarious thing. But obviously that's not going to happen. Zlatan. Right, get Zlatan back. They've talked about it should be someone that knows the kind of ethos of the club. Get Zlatan in to become and be the temporary caretaker manager till the end of the season.
Stranger things have happened.
All right, well, next time we record a podcast, I guess we'll know who it's going to be, and we'll do some analysis on that. Thanks for listening, everyone. I want your predictions, though, Ed, before we go. Who's going to be the temporary manager in charge of United?
I've no idea, but people are saying Laurent Blanc, so it could be him.
Yeah, all right, so I guess that's
I'd rather they just gave it to Carrick for 6 months, to be honest.
Yeah, me too, for sure. And then, are we going Poch? Are we both going Poch for who that?
Yeah, 100%. He understands the Premier League. He's building a really good Spurs side on not huge amounts of money.
Not huge.
Not huge. On no
nothing.
Money.
Yeah.
On no money. He plays good attacking football. I'm not worried about the lack of trophies. I'm sure they will come at United, and I'm sure a United side with him and United's budget would be back challenging in the not too distant future. I think if they do appoint Poch, they're signalling that they're going to change the structure of the club too, and all of that is good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, brilliant. We'll be back as promised in the last episode on the 20-something of December after Christmas.
Right.
Have a nice Christmas, everyone. Santa came early.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.